Hello, fellow human light beings. This is Mahadev, the Thunder Wizard. And I thought I would come on today. I've been very busy. But I did want to just check in and say hello. And I wanted to share with you what's on my mind. You know, don't have anything prepared really hardcore for today. But, you know, sometimes when the spirit strikes, I'm able to babble for quite a long time, so we'll see what happens. And I want to talk to you about the impending feeling that I have about open contact with extraterrestrials and the fact that we are not alone. And I want to focus on some positive things about this phenomenon. I'm feeling very positive about where things are going, even though I've uploaded some very disturbing things about specifically the fake alien invasion and alien abductions and all of that. And you know, it does frustrate me quite a bit, the level of unconsciousness of even people who, you know, who supposedly are educated and experienced in, you know, what's happening with extraterrestrials visiting Earth and all of that. There's still so many, so many people who are operating from fear, their own fear that they're projecting. People who have been brainwashed, because there is an active brainwashing campaign that's been going on since 1961. About alien abductions, and there are CIA plants who are all over the UFO, the ufology community, and then there are just people who conflate and don't know any better. It's very frustrating to me how resistant people are to understanding the truth of what is going on outside of our third dimensional Earth. Having said that, I have to have compassion because I also was extremely resistant to understanding what's going on, and the only reason I know the things that I know about higher dimensions and human beings' proclivities towards gaslighting themselves out of their own divinity and creating a fearful reality for themselves. The only reason that I have any, you know, any elevation above that is because I have sought out to experience what reality is like from the perspective of extraterrestrials. And it was extremely frightening. The first, you know, the beginning of contact for me was very frightening. Not because they did anything. Unlike the abductions, people who are abducted, who believe they're being abducted by extraterrestrials, which they're not. Which I've proven, I think I've proven in my book. I get my books here at michaelwilliamdenny.com. Just from a rational perspective, using critical thinking skills, I was able to debunk all of the abductions as being extraterrestrial. Having said that, I am not saying that abductions don't happen. They do, and they have. I've spoken with people who have been abducted, and they're not crazy. But there's a huge difference between being abducted and tortured and experimented on in the third dimension, regardless of if you think you're inside of a spacecraft, regardless if you believe that you're interacting with beings from other planets that look like grays or insects. And that, even if you are thoroughly convinced that those things are happening, they're happening in the third dimension. And extraterrestrials, actual extraterrestrials, when they interact with you, there will always be a trans-dimensional experience. Always, every single time. I think the likelihood of it being just merely, a frightening, confusing third-dimensional experience, I think is virtually impossible. Even the people whom I believe who say that they've had physical encounters with actual extraterrestrials, there is still, I can tell by listening to them talk, because I've shared it, there's still a higher dimensional aspect in regards to the electromagnetic energy that they interact with. Anyway, I'm uploading a lot of videos, and I've just discovered this new technique which I'm very obsessed with, which is how to take my huge videos, which I've been trying to figure out how to do for years, how to take my huge videos and turn them into viral shorts. And there's services that do that for free. I mean, you can pay for them, but there's also free services you can do that. So I'm very obsessed with that because I think it'll be very helpful, and it will get a lot more exposure to the channel and the message. But anyway, I'm frustrated about that, but I've decided not to let the frustration bother me. I've just decided to get the information out there, because that's the only way to battle misinformation and people's ignorance, is by getting information out there. The second most valuable way to overcome that is personal experience. This is why on this channel, unlike ufology, if you go to a UFO conference, they're going to talk about ETs and aliens and extraterrestrials, but really you don't have any control over that. Maybe you're lucky if you get abducted. Maybe, people go out with binoculars looking for ETs. And again, I can tell by that behavior, these are people who have not interacted with actual extraterrestrials. Or if they have, it has been on such a superficial level that they don't understand what's happening. So just let me tell you, right off the bat, 90% or more of all of the UFOs that people see are not extraterrestrial in origin. They are terrestrial. They are made by humans. I don't care how strange it is to you. I don't care if the craft doesn't have any noise, if it's anti-gravitational, if it goes faster than the speed of light. Human beings have had this capability since before World War II. Before Roswell, nobody knew what flying saucers were. And there are people, the oldest, some of the oldest recorded UFO encounters in the United States are from people before World War II. And in one of them, and in all of those, when you look at them, you can find out they were human-built craft. Like the term flying saucer didn't come from somebody who saw what he thought was a craft from outer space. It was a pilot who saw a fleet of ships that had a look about them he'd never seen before. He didn't think they were flying saucers. He knew that they were built by humans, but they had a shape he'd never seen, and he called them flying saucers. And what happened? The media picked it up and turned it into something. Why is that? Because CIA is planted in the media. Everybody, I don't care what, if it's a mainstream media news show, I guarantee you, there are people working there from the CIA who are controlling the content. Where do you think all the scripts come from? We see it now because there are these, 2 or 3 companies or one, conglomerate that owns all of the media. And you can you can literally take the end of all of the mainstream media news. There's some memes on it, and they're talking from a script. Who do you think are the people that are writing the scripts? It's the CIA. By the way, in case you didn't know, the CIA was created after Roswell. The whole point of the CIA was to control information about extraterrestrials and UFOs. That was the whole point of the CIA. That's what started it all. So if you think the CIA is some paramilitary group. You're wrong. So then you have to ask yourself, why does the CIA infiltrate other governments? Why was the CIA during Vietnam running, running drugs? Why is the CIA going into Central and South America for so many years and destabilizing these governments, propping up dictators? Why do you think they're doing that? There's a connection to all of this. And I made that very clear in the most recent video where I showed you those documents that Dr. Stephen Greer had posted on his website. By the way, somebody left a comment that was a little disturbing. They said they can't see the documents. And my response was, you mean you don't know how to go in and zoom in? You don't know how to pause your phone and zoom in? There. I'm giving you instructions on what to do if you want to read those documents and know what they say. Okay, so anyway, I'm babbling. Like I said, I didn't really prepare anything today. And that's because I've been extremely busy. But there has been a lot of activity going on in the ethereal realm. Yesterday was one of the most powerful experiences I've had in a long time. So we'll get into that. Before I go any further, if you are new to the channel, I need you to subscribe, like, and comment. I do believe that this channel has been experiencing shadow banning, which means that YouTube goes in, removes people's, they remove people's subscribers and they remove views. And they, lots of times when they remove videos, they tell you. But sometimes they just go in and delete videos and they don't tell you. Of course, they can go in and block you and all of that. But anyway, I've experienced that on my channel. So you can help me fight that by subscribing, resubscribing if you need to, like and comment. If you want to get the most out of this channel, go to the free playlist page and click on the 3 playlists, the Maoshan Qigong, the Interdimensional Meditation, and the 12 Steps to 5D. There are lots of other playlists. Some of them are really outdated and have stuff in it that I don't believe in anymore. There's a lot of really good stuff in there, like the stuff about the Mandela effect. But those 3 playlists, the Maoshan Qigong, the Interdimensional Meditation, 12 Steps to 5D, those are the actions. And if you want to get the biggest benefit out of this channel, then I need you to take the actions to change yourself. Listening to me talk, well, I'm glad that you like listening to me talk, but I have not, as of yet, gleaned the power to shift people's energy simply by talking to them. You have to do the same things I've done. You have to do the very simple practices. In some cases, just simple physical movements that will shift you out of your current frequency up into a higher frequency. So those are the 3 playlists, the Maoshan Qigong, Interdimensional Meditation, 12 Steps to 5D. Do at least one thing from at least one of those playlists every day, unless, of course, which the next thing I want you to do simultaneously to all of that is to subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, which you can find at the website thunderwizard.com. If you go there, click around until you see the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, subscribe to that. All you have to do is simply press play on the videos. I tell you exactly how to do it, and I created that because people ask me, there's so much information out there. You got so much information, where do I start? Can you take me from A to Z? Okay, I did that. The 90-day challenge. There's a bunch of other stuff in there too. You get access to all of the members only videos that I've been posting, for the past 10 or 15 years. I think there's some thunder out there. So if you haven't subscribed, do that now. And by the way, that subscription is what pays my bills. That's what allows me to eat. So it allows me to pay rent. I do everything in my power to give out as much free stuff. In fact, you won't find any channel anywhere that gives as many free practices, free teachings, free certifications. Just look through all of my videos over the past 10 or 15 years. So it really does help out and allows me to spend time doing what I'm doing, because this is a 24-hour a day job. It's a lot of work that goes into this. I don't know if you've ever run a channel. It's a lot of work. So I need that if I'm going to stay doing it. And I appreciate all of those who have been helping me do that. So that's what I need you to do if you're new to the channel. All right, so I went a long time on that. We are not alone. Open contact is coming. There is a shift that is happening in consciousness, and the battle that we are fighting is a battle of consciousness. Now, it's a battle we have to fight on 3 fronts. The first front is we have to fight against the obvious gaslighting and programming and hypnosis that's been going on, the brainwashing that's been going on in our modern society since the beginning of the 20th century. From that time until now, there has been a relentless pursuit to completely control the way that you think. I promise you, I'm not going to wax on about it, but the biggest one is money. People think that money actually exists. It doesn't. There is no such thing. It is an idea. The only thing that exists is resources. But the truth is, if we chose to, we could be a planet that allowed the world to give us resources, because it does. But we already have the technology to achieve all of this. We have 0-point technology, which would get rid of starvation, it would get rid of hunger, it would get rid of disease, it would get rid of all the things. And that's why it's secret. Because what is money about? Money is about, first and foremost, money is about devaluing you. Because where do people believe their value comes from? How much money you have. I mean, that's why it's called a credit score. We're not even talking about, you know, the personal credit score that people are talking is going to be coming and has been implemented. I mean, just your financial credit score. It's really about telling you your value in the world. And how do you get a credit score? You go into debt. You get owned by a bank. Again, I mean, I'll try and keep it short, but you know, people still believe that if they buy a house, quote unquote, that they will have equity, that they will have safety, that they will have an investment. But let me tell you what happens when you buy a house. You don't even think about it. People go out of their way to do this to themselves. When you buy a house, you become a slave to the bank. You buy a house, there isn't anybody, unless they're extremely wealthy, who has the ability to walk in with a giant bag of cash and say, I want that house. Here's $2 million, $3 million. How many of you can do that? I don't know anybody that can do that. So what you do is you go to the bank and you give them a down payment, a lot of money. For you, it's probably a lot of money, $10,000, $100,000. You take a huge chunk of, and you might even have to get a loan to get that. And then you give that to the bank. The bank says, thank you very much. You'll never see that again. You'll never see that money again. It goes into them. They go and buy the house. They own the house. But they make you believe you own it because they give you what's called a mortgage, which is a fancy way of saying you're going to pay them rent. Not only are you going to pay them rent, you're going to pay interest on that rent. Not only are you going to pay rent and pay interest on that rent, but you are going to be responsible for all of the upkeep. And then you have to make payments to the bank, which is your rent. And if you don't pay rent, they kick you out. Now, they don't kick you out and give you your $100,000 back. They don't kick you out and give you, whatever you've paid into the value of the home, even though, because they've always owned it. They've never not owned your house. Never. They've always owned it. If you miss a payment, you're out all of that money. If you've missed a payment, you're out of the home, and you have put money into the home, you're out all of that money. So what ends up happening is that you are owned by them. You can go ahead and sell it if you want. Try selling a car. Same thing with a car. You buy a car, you're making payments on it. I know, because I've done this. You think you're going to sell the car and get some money back? No, you're going to sell the car and then you're going to pay extra on top of that just to sell the car that you've been driving. So this whole idea of money is about controlling and devaluing you. And the way they control you is by your feeling of being unworthy, unvaluable. And it is the exact opposite of how life is everywhere else in the multiverse. Everywhere else in the multiverse, your value comes from one thing only: because you exist. Because you exist and because you have awareness, you are by definition God. By definition, you are an extension of the spirit that is everything. And outside of the third dimension, every conscious being, when you come into the room, when you fly into their solar system, their first experience of you is that God is here. And they have nothing but love and respect and value for you. There is no such thing as a credit score. There is no such thing as money. Because the technology that they have, with their fancy rainbow spaceships like the one behind the AI version of me there, that technology is run on consciousness. Those ships have a consciousness to them that comes directly from God, if you will, from the quantum field. And everybody has access to that. And so imagine if you had God, as a butler. People say God isn't a butler. He's absolutely a butler. Imagine God as a butler and you say, God, I want to have a piece of technology that allows me to do this, and I want it to have some sort of AI thing where I can tell it what to do and where to go and to calculate things for me. And God will create that out of his own consciousness. He will create that technology. You may understand it, maybe you don't understand it. But, the truth is that God, whatever you want to call it, is only interested in giving you all of the resources to experience whatever you want to experience. It's the exact opposite of the lies you've been told through religion about what God is, a psychopathic narcissist. Anyway, I'm getting off into weird tangents that don't make anything. That's what happens when I don't write stuff down. So, question your reality and then change it. Let's go over some basics here. Your 3D life is not your true reality. You are living in a virtual reality video game. This is a 3D role-playing video game. It is not real. The person who you think you are is the character you created in this 3D video game. So, your 3D life is not your true reality. Your core self is a multi-dimensional light being. So, especially if you're new to my channel, just sit with yourself for a second, and I just want you to take stock on who you think you are. Just think about it. Who are you in this universe, in this 3D earth? Who are you? More than likely, you see yourself as this tiny little created being, and you live in this giant universe where there's all these laws of physics, and you are trapped within that. You can't fly, right? You can't be in two places at once. You're not psychic. You're just this being walking around with all this limitation. Well, that's an illusion. You think after you die. I mean, this is, again, if you think about the people who believe that there are false beings of light trapping them in reincarnation. I mean, I know that people are very attached to that belief, but let's go to the assumption behind that, which is very sad and pathetic. But the assumption that you are so tiny and so powerless that some other being that isn't God can decide to trick you into being reincarnated on planet Earth. It means that you are a bug. It means you have no power. It means you have no value. It means you have no choices. I mean, and if what you're saying is true, that higher dimensional beings have the ability to gaslight you that way, then you're screwed. I mean, give up all hope. I've been to those dimensions, and I can tell you in higher dimensions, a higher dimensional being is going to be in front of you, behind you. There is nothing you will ever do. You will not outthink them. You will not outsmart them. They are ahead of you. If you're in the third dimension, in every possible way, they can travel in time. They can do anything. They can act like God just because they're in a higher dimension. And so if you honestly think that that's what's going on and you have any hope of outsmarting them, if what you say is true, it's impossible. You're screwed. Give up now. So that's obviously not the case. Your common sense tells you that that can't be true, that you aren't that controlled. That's why you seek for the exit to the matrix. So the other assumption, which I've found out to be true, which I didn't know, it's not like I knew it before, but now I know exactly what's going on, which is that we live in multiple dimensions. There's a version of you which is you. It's not like a clone of you. It is you. You are attached to it. There's a version of you in every single dimension, going up 12 dimensions. And every time you go up in a dimension, we're talking about, it's not like an incremental shift. You are shifting in a quantum fashion. You become God. Fifth dimensional beings to us have the power of God. From the fifth dimension to the sixth dimension, same thing. From the sixth to the seventh, to the seventh to the eighth, to the ninth to the 10th. Every time you go up a dimension, you become God to the beings in the dimension below you. And you have a version of yourself that is you, that goes all the way up to the 12th dimension, to the source, to God, him or herself. So when I say you are God, I'm not kidding you. It is the truth. Absolute truth. These, if you can absorb these concepts and operate from these assumptions, you will be able to control every aspect of your third dimensional physical reality. You'll be able to get everything you've ever wanted. Your human identity is a temporary 3D construct. Your reactions to life are a scripted character. Your highest achievement in life is to remember your 5D self. So there's only one commandment. Remembering your 5D self is not a commandment. But there's only one commandment, and this is a commandment that all beings, including God himself, herself, themselves, at the 12th dimension. This one commandment is that you must fulfill all of your deepest soul desires. You must do it. You must achieve your greatest happiness. You must. If you don't, the third dimension will punish you. If you're sick, you're not giving yourself everything you want. If you're poor, you're not giving yourself everything that you want. If you're lonely, if you're miserable in any way, it means that you are not giving to yourself what your soul wants. And when you get what your soul wants, you will be filled with bliss and happiness. You will have contentment. I'm very content in my life. I haven't experienced this level of contentment in my whole life. It's because I literally have everything that I want. And the things that I don't have that I want, I'm going after them. And when you live from that, their credit scores are meaningless. Doesn't mean anything. You know, my credit score is, well, actually my credit score is getting better, but a year ago it was horrible. Not because I couldn't afford things. I could. I had the money and the cash to pay rent and things like that. But when I was in Florida, I mean, it was impossible for me to get, and you know, it's one of the reasons I left. It's because every time I would go to, you know, try and rent a place, even though if I could show them my bank account, see, I got plenty of money, I can pay for it. Well, your credit score is this, and I'm not even going to look at you if you don't have this credit score. It's just ridiculous. And I'm here now renting the house, literally the house of my dreams. Every day I think, is there something I would want better than this? And I can't think of anything. And I didn't sign a lease. I didn't put a down payment. People just rented me their house. They don't do that here. It's not like that's what they do here in Australia. These people just, and this is the second time this has happened. That happened to me last time I was here. And that means I am following the desires of my soul, because what happens when you follow the desires of your soul? The Matrix, the 3D video game, just throws at you what you want. So you're living by other people's rules if you think you have to have a good credit score, you have to have a lot of money, you have to have a good job, you have to have this, you have to have washboard abs, you're living by other people's standards, and that's not what you're here to do. You're here to live your deepest soul desire. Now, that's the commandment. What I just talked about is not a commandment, and yet it is the highest thing to achieve, which is your highest achievement in life is to remember your 5D self. That is something that has not been available to human beings until now. This is the first time in human history that human beings have been given an opportunity to have the equivalent of a near-death experience, except it goes beyond that. So let me tell you what happens when people have near-death experiences. When people have near-death experiences, they physically die, they leave their body, their soul goes out, they may have a soul review, they may meet their higher self, they may meet Jesus or Buddha or whatever, and then, you know, they'll see their whole life flash before them, they'll have a life review, they'll realize, oh my God, I've been so selfish, or I've been so afraid, or I've been so petty, or, oh, if I could do it over again. And then sometimes they're given a choice. Do you want to come with us, or do you want to go back down there? And people say, you know what, I want to go back and do it down there because I know what I want to do. Other people are told, you know, you need to go back. You have an important role. And they go back. And they usually go back, like if they died of cancer, they will be cured of cancer within, you know, days or months, because they know that disease is just something that is unresolved trauma within the physical body, that they realize that. And so they'll cure themselves of whatever it is that's going on with them, and they'll have a new understanding about that. They won't be afraid of death. They'll be able to, you know their past lives, etc., etc. But you have an opportunity to go beyond that. I've done that. I have gone beyond what would happen in a normal near-death experience. Because what I am continuing to expand into is the awareness of who I currently am outside of this three-dimensional video game. You know, I know what I am when I'm not in this game. And this three-dimensional meat suit is a virtual reality interface. Brain, eyes, nervous system, chakras, all of this is interfaced with the third dimension on physical, spiritual, and psychological levels. That's all it is. And as long as you're encased in it, you will operate from those memories. You will operate from the parameters of your three-dimensional video game character. So even if you have a near-death experience, if you go beyond that, if you were to have a near-death experience in any time before now, and you were to go beyond the life review, and because they oftentimes they'll say, they'll want to go further, and they'll they'll be said, you know, if you go there, you can't come back, or no, you have to go back. There's a limit to how far the soul can go in a near-death experience. That barrier is gone. Because what's on the other side of that barrier that people don't know when they have a near-death experience, what's on the other side of that barrier is the truth of who they are, which if they were to experience it, they wouldn't be capable of going back to the 3D video game. Because they would realize that they're not that person, they're not that character. They would realize that they are an infinite deity. And they would remember that the beings that were incarnated on earth were the most powerful of all of the deities. So you're not like a minor level deity. You're not like an angel. You're like the top tier. You're among the most powerful of all beings in the multiverse. Those are the only beings that are allowed to come here. And that's saying a lot, because look at how many people come here and make absolute just messes of their lives. Look at how many people come here and get so wrapped up in it that they become evil and hurt others, because they've completely forgotten who they are, the pain of it, the difficulty, the challenges. Listen, there's no evil person in 3D that is having a good time. They don't exist. Bill Gates is miserable. Jeffrey Dahmer was miserable. Hitler was miserable. The most misery, the reason why they are so abusive and so destructive is because they're in so much pain. And the reason why they're in so much pain is because this three-dimensional reality school is the toughest one in the entire multiverse. So only the most powerful come here. And even those that come here, no matter how powerful you are, there's a chance you're going to get wrapped up in it, and you'll get wrapped up in your pain. They know that. So when you go beyond that barrier in a near-death experience and you remember who you were, you can't come back here, because then you wouldn't be able to play the game. You have to be able to forget in order to play the game. But the game is being destroyed. The game is being shelved. This three-dimensional reality is being shelved. And so now, for the first time in history, human beings are allowed to experience their true 5D essence, which is beyond anything you'll find in any written, even religions, spiritual practices that I respect. Even Vedic religions, even the Norse religions, pre-Christian religions, they don't tap into that. The gods are out there and you're here. But the truth is, you are those gods. There's no difference. Odin has incarnated, Shiva's incarnated, Vishnu, as we know, has incarnated, Kali, all of them have incarnated and are continuing to incarnate. That's who you are. So you have to, if you can experience that, it's one thing for me to tell you that, and it's another thing for you to experience it, which is why the interdimensional meditation is so important, why I tell you to do that. Because I don't want you to believe me. Don't believe anybody. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Experience it. Let experience teach you. When you remember, you can change your reality. So that's why you weren't allowed to do it before, because you had to follow the rules of the game, because that's the only way to learn. But the universe is saying, listen, we've learned everything we're going to learn from this. All of the souls that have been here have learned all the things that they're going to learn. It's time to pack it in. So guess what? You've been in control of this game the whole time. The architect, like in the Matrix, the architect was you the whole time. You didn't remember that. Now that you know that, you can create whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. This is why the Huar breath, you're hearing it in the background. That is a seed sound. It is called a bija mantra, a seed sound. It was given to me by a higher dimensional being, and it is the sound of the solar flash. And if you chant that, that's why I play that in the background of all of my videos. I want it to get in there. People have said they've heard it in their sleep. Good. Get it in there, because that will reprogram you to start remembering, to start seeing who you are. And once you know who you are and you operate from your soul, you get to create whatever the heck you want. And now it's time to create a new world. Absolutely anything you can imagine is possible now. Anything. Flying unicorns that poop out Skittles is possible, if that's what gives you the greatest joy. So this is where we're headed, my friends. Again, I didn't have anything really planned to say for today, so I'll just leave it at that. Again, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like, and comment. Go to the free playlist page, click on Maoshan Qigong, Interdimensional Meditation, and 12 Steps to 5D. Subscribe to Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong at thunderwizard.com. I've got books you can get here at michaelwilliamdenny.com. I'm now all over, now that I've know how to make these little viral shorts, I'm all over social media. I'm starting to blow up on Facebook. Some of the videos are starting to go viral there. So great. And you know, if possible, I'm always at Thunder Wizard, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, or here it's at Thunder Wizard, so you can look for me in different places. And do what you can to help the channel grow. But the most important thing is that you do the work. The thing that I want for you more than anything is to shift. And I have spent my entire adult life experimenting, researching, practicing, and synthesizing the most powerful practices. And again, this seed mantra, the Huar seed mantra, in my experience, my belief, my humble opinion, is the most powerful seed sound human beings have experienced yet. So I recommend you to experiment with it, see where it takes you. But I don't care what you do. There isn't any commandments here. This isn't a cult. I'm giving out as many different possible avenues for you to work with, and find what works for you and do something to empower yourself. When you take actions, especially if you take actions that go against your third dimensional instincts, when you take those frightening actions that empower your soul and you evolve, you help me, you help God Himself. Every conscious being thanks you. I mean, once you start interacting with these beings, you'll experience it. But there are little things that I do here. I might do a live meditation. I might make a shift in my life. I might say something to somebody, that I've been wanting to say. I might change a habit. And when I do sometimes the tiniest little things that is going towards my evolution, when I go out there, there will be hundreds or thousands of these light beings who will be cheering, and they will be grateful. They're not just happy for me, they're grateful because they experience a shift. The universe really appreciates everything that you do. In the third dimension, we get caught up with karma. We think that the universe is logging down all of the mistakes you make and all of the sins you do, and that's what gets held against you. But that's really nothing. Once you get beyond the fifth dimension, the universe doesn't care. It doesn't care what mistakes you made. You were supposed to make mistakes. You were a human. What else were you going to do? The whole point was to learn from your mistakes. But every single thing that you've done, petting a puppy on the head, saying a kind word to somebody in pain, being with a child and, finger painting with them, doing something for some other being, helping a lizard, crawl up a rock, whatever it is. Those things, all of those things add up. And when you get to the other side, that is just, the level of love and gratitude is immeasurable. So, anyway, I'm done babbling for the time being. I don't know, let's see, we've got some things going on here. People talking. Give me a second. Okay, so Cats and Me, let's see. Cats and Me basically says he's been going to church, even though he's been doing the one commandment, and it makes him feel isolated and alone without a belief system. Hey man, I'm not going to comment on that. Do whatever you need to do. It doesn't work for me. I've written books about why it doesn't work for me. So, but he says it helps him. So whatever works, do whatever works. Question: I'm thinking of starting a Bible study. I don't know why you're asking me about that. I want to use the concept of the secret commandment to a perfect life. How would you teach without it sounding like heresy? You can't. I'm sorry, my friend. You're at a crossroads there. If you're going to a fundamentalist church and they believe that the Bible is the inherent word of God, that's just not how they function. I mean, so I made a short on the secret commandment, and somebody said, I even talked about it in the video. The guy wrote on there and said that your desires are wickedness in God's eyes, and His desires are perfect. And that's exactly how they see things. So, Cats and Me, you're at odds with yourself. If you want to go to church because you want to have a community and it makes you feel better, I'm happy for you. But if you want to go in there and you want to manipulate them, which is what you're doing, you want to go in there and tell them to believe something that they don't want to believe. And that's not fair. If you're going to go to church, respect them. I'm not going to, I've written books against Christianity and how horrible and evil it is, and I talk on my channel about what a psychopath Jehovah is. But I'm not going to walk into a church and crap all over their thing. That's their thing. You go to a church to listen and learn from them. So the idea that you're going to create a Bible study and give your thing, because you're obviously on my channel because this works for you. So, it's not fair. You're being selfish. If you're going to go into somebody's house, you don't go into somebody else's house and take a crap on their floor. And that's what you're doing. You go into somebody's house and you say, oh, what a beautiful house you have. And you're respectful. You're a guest in their home. They're giving you, you may not like the food. I remember as a kid, because I'm a very picky eater. When I was a kid, I was really picky. And, I had to eat what was put in front of me. And I would try not to gag because I hated goopy, cheesy, the stuff we used to eat in the 70s and 60s was horrible. But if somebody hands me a plate of food, I eat it. So don't be so selfish. And don't be into denial. If you're going there because you want to be around people, then go there to make friends, be kind to people. Don't tell them if they don't ask you what you believe. Don't tell them anything. And certainly don't start a Bible study and try and manipulate them into what I'm teaching. It's not fair to them. And all you're doing is you're setting yourself up to be, setting yourself up for people to get angry at you and to get their feelings hurt. Other than that, do whatever you need to do to feel happy. I don't judge you for that. What else? Deb, solutions please. Deb, the way this works is if you have a question, you can ask a question. You can use all of your words. You can have a subject and an object. You can say, if you ask a full question that I can read, I'll be happy to help you. You want solutions? Great. Solutions to what? Give me a specific problem. And I say that for you. This is for you to respect yourself. When you communicate fully to other people, it's respectful to you. It's disrespectful to you when you're lazy and you put out 2 words expecting somebody to try and figure out what you're asking for. If you ask for what you want, people will usually give it to you. Recept Sund, let's see, is that a question? No, he's sharing an experience. When doing celestial Qigong, which is the basis of the lightning Qigong, I've become like a magnet for people. They are happy and ecstatic around me. The danger that my ego can get inflated. Why is that a danger? Why is that your ego? See, this is the devaluation that comes from religion. Religion devalues you. Your desires are wickedness in God's eyes. That's to be a blessing to other people. Because again, the Bible says don't take any honor for yourself. Give all glory to God. I find it so sports figures. They win a game because they trained and they worked really hard at it, or they win in a boxing ring and they knocked somebody out, which is really strange. I just give Jesus all the credit. You tell me Jesus went to the gym and trained so that he could knock people out? Why are you giving him the credit? You're the one that did all the work for it. God is in there somewhere, but not in that way. There's no ego inflation from you. It's not just, what you're saying is that the energy from the celestial Qigong is doing this to them and it's not really you. No, the celestial Qigong is opening you up so that your energy comes through. I know, because there are people who have done this energy and gotten very powerful, but they were very unconscious and destructive, and they brought that into the room and people would get freaked out by them. And so the energy isn't doing it, you're doing it. The energy just opened it up. There's nothing wrong with seeing the truth of what's happening, which is that you do the celestial Qigong and people want to connect to you. It's because of you. What's wrong with that? Why can't you give yourself credit for being a beautiful being? A beautiful, wonderful, loving being that other people who don't have that connection want to experience. No, there's no ego there. See, the thing about ego is actually insecurity. People think that narcissists have huge egos. They don't. If somebody's a narcissist, it means that they have no ego. That's why they inflate a false ego. They look like they have everything together. They don't make any mistakes. It's because they can't. If they admit to themselves that they're imperfect, it'll destroy them. Literally, it could kill them. If we're talking about mentally ill. So an ego is not feeling confident. An ego is feeling insecure. So if you want to avoid, what you're talking about is false pride, false ego. It's trying to downplay your soul. Just enjoy it. You deserve it. There's something good about you that brings that out in people. And what a privilege that you've gotten in touch with yourself on a deeper level. All right, nothing else? All right, that's it. Okay, guys, thank you for showing up. Again, subscribe, like, comment, and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge books, michaelwilliamdenny.com. And that's it. As always, if the solar flash don't come, and or I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise, and or I don't shift myself out of this three-dimensional reality, I will see you all very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves. I love you all, and I appreciate every single one of you for everything that you do, including listening to me rant on and babble. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.